Today we're going to do it a little different. We're going to weave in some comic book history with actual history. The comedian Godfrey went on, he in one of his latest things, he was talking about how there's the parallel between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X with Professor X and Magneto, which is correct. For people in my age range who are Generation X, we've always kind of had this understanding without having it to be taught to us. You know what I mean? It's called reading in between the lines. After a back and forth on Twitter with an individual who I really don't even give a fuck about, they was talking about they're gonna explain something to me, and I'm like, nigga, there's nothing to explain. You can't explain to me what a man is saying out of his mouth. He's explaining, nigga. You shut the fuck up and you listen. All right, boom, we on history.com. The article, How Stanley's X-Men Were Inspired by Real Life Civil Rights Heroes. The first paragraph tells you that they weren't powerful, they felt pain, anguish, regret. They won, but they also lost. And many of them were informed by the civil rights struggles of the 1960s. Word for word, these stories have room for everyone, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or color of their skin. That's one. Next, the greatest manifestation of that idea was the X-Men. Introduced in September 1963, the X-Men were a team of teenage mutants led by their teacher and mentor, Professor Charles Xavier, who fought, super criminals and other mutants led by Magneto, bent on destruction of humanity. Rather than be a black and white battle between good and evil, the X-Men had a wrinkle. The mutants were hated by normal humans, quote unquote normal. That's no different than niggas in modern day America. That's no different than niggas in civil rights 1964 America. That's no different than niggas in slavery America. You feel me? Fuck out of here. So, anyway, your boy goes further to say, I love the idea. It not only made them different, but it was a good metaphor for what was happening with the civil rights movement in the country at the time. Take notes, nigga. Here's another quote from Sean Howe, author of Marvel Comics The Untold Story. He says, the X-Men were probably the most explicitly political of the 1960s. You can't have some shit be political if it's not talking about real political issues at that time. The most important hot issue of the time of the creation of the X-Men was the civil rights movement. Black Panther came later on in 1966. And another quote, let's lay it right on the line. Bigotry and racism are among the deadliest social ills plaguing the world today. Blah, blah, blah. It's totally irrational, patently insane to condemn an entire race, to despise an entire nation, to vilify an entire religion, yada, yada, yada. Take that how you got to take it. Then here we go again. Although he was deeply influenced by the civil rights struggles unfolding around him in the 60s, he was more of a chronicler than an activist. So, the long and short, he wrote about what was happening via these comic books rather than being out in the streets with the picket signs and getting hit by them attack dogs and getting whooped by police. So then go on forward, it says the X-Men struggles in a world defined by systemic persecution proved malleable enough to outlast the civil rights era. Beginning in the 1980s and continuing through today, the X-Men have been adopted by those fighting for LGBTQ rights who see mutant struggle for acceptance and equality as their own. So this is another parallel. Every fucking civil rights type of movement was born out of the African American or the Black American civil rights movement. Period. Once we opened the gate, then other people they were empowered to start to kind of protest and fight for their shit after seeing us fight for our shit. So let's never get that fucked up. So a book not only identifies and relates to one struggle, but it relates to a couple of different struggles. Okay, check, check. Stop fucking playing these games. Those who are real comics and those who got high IQ and connected the dots without having to be told, congratulations. This video ain't for y'all. This is for those who need to sit in the corner with the pointy hat. You feel me? The idea to create this, did it come from a sincere place in Stanley's heart? Hopefully it did. Was there alternative motives to make bread? I'm sure there was. But at the same time, I'm sure that if there was a sleazeball angle, the safer bet might have been to just do like DC and just write fantasy ass stories in magical shit, blah 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 blah, where they didn't really address no real issue, especially racism. And they still would have made their money. They probably would have made more money. They telling you word for word from quotes out of this man's mouth, along with videos. You could look that shit up. I ain't looking the shit up for you, nigga. He told you what it was. He was inspired by the civil rights movement. The X-Men came first, then Black Panther, nigga. Don't get it fucked up. I'm out.